What we're going to be talking about today is hardware support. And, I think this is one of these areas that certainly within the world of micromobility, as I've been covering it on the podcast over the last 4 years, has been one that oftentimes was a sort of neglected conversation and that people didn't really want to, oftentimes didn't want to have until it really kind of went back and really bit them. So I welcome the opportunity to have a chance to talk to you about that, and I think you bring a really interesting angle. So maybe if we can just start, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do at Mavenoid?
Yep. So, hey everybody, my name is Mischa Schirris. I am the head of partnerships at Mavenoid. That means that I'm focused on building up our channel partners to help bring Mavenoid to market. Mavenoid is the hardware support platform, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, as I sort of mentioned, I think this space, especially with the hardware game, what we've seen, at least initially from a lot of companies, has been, hey, I'm going to build a product. I'm going to take an e-scooter, I'm going to go put it out on the road, and oftentimes they'll find at the end of the day they're getting inquiries, especially as they're starting to ramp up, and if they're finding it challenging to be able to integrate that feedback and then be able to provide that back. So can I just ask exactly how Mavenoid works? Like, what are the services that you offer, and how does that kind of come together? For example, with a hardware company.
Yeah. So maybe to set an example, in December I moved into a new home. And this new home, it had all of these new appliances that I wasn't yet familiar with. Right, the oven started breaking; it didn't turn on. The dishwasher was cutting out after 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Right, all of these issues. And so, what do? I started digging into manuals, and I started looking for phone numbers and googling online, and eventually sitting in a queue for 30 minutes to finally get some support. Now, it just feels like this whole product support experience, it seems a little bit broken, and very often it is a bit of an afterthought for many of these companies. So wouldn't it be awesome if there was just a single spot that you can go to get the help that you need, troubleshoot your issue, get some instructions, speak to an agent if you need to, and through that just have all of that support in one place. So that's where Mavenoid comes in. We are the product support platform, and we help companies that build physical products to offer a great customer support experience. So we work with leading companies like Husqvarna lawnmowers, DeLonghi coffee machines, Jabra headphones, and even big lifting cranes like Kona cranes. I think there's one up right there.
Oh, no way.
To help kind of solve issues that occur over there.
Yeah.
So that's what we do. In micromobility, we work with players like Void, Super Pedestrian, or platforms like Joyride and many other players to help them scale their support as they go through hypergrowth. Yeah. So imagine this scenario, right? You're kind of standing there in the middle of the rain. It's late at night, and your scooter and your app just won't end the ride. Super frustrating. You don't have time to have an agent process your ticket 2 days from now. You need help right then and there. And so that's where Mavenoid comes in.
Yeah, I think it's really, of the companies that I've seen who are trying to do this, I remember that exact experience, actually. Being with a Lime scooter on the side of the road, not being able to unlock it or lock it, and going deeply, this is a deeply frustrating experience. And then I was very lucky on the other side to also know the operations manager for Lime in New Zealand. And so I rang my friend and sort of said to him, hey, I'm stuck on the side of the road. Can you sort me out? And but nobody has that, very few people have that level of access to be able to do that. Where I think, the reason that he was saying to me that it was really challenging, he's like, man, we're just, we're desperately understaffed at the time for being able to handle the amount of growth that we've been going through. And I think when I first heard about you, I was like, wow, of course there would be a hardware support service, literally that we can plug in, we can work with them, and we can build up that function. Certainly when I was at Uber, that was like, I was originally hired as a community manager, a marketing manager, and we were to do that job, but we quickly couldn't scale anywhere near to the number of rides that we're having in a city, so we built our own dedicated function. What are the kind of, I think oftentimes a lot of companies, like we did at Uber, just say, hey, we're going to build this ourselves, we're going to get our heads around it and that sort of thing. What's the sort of pivot point, or what's the sort of inflection point at which you start, companies will come to you and say, actually, it makes sense for us to get that dedicated support and a company that actually knows what they're doing to be able to help us with this?
Yeah, exactly. I think this already starts at kind of a scale when you're still sort of a startup and you're starting to kind of go through that initial phase of growth, right? So Mavenoid is a software as a service platform, and we help companies build their self-service support channel to help companies to help their users have a great support experience. And so with that comes everything from analytics to kind of the ability to easily manage your content, a bunch of AI solutions that come on top of that. And so it's really early on in that stage already where you say, hey, we maybe have a couple of agents starting to answer calls, and there's a clear case to be made for helping them address as many user needs as needed because we just need to keep on scaling, right? One of the micromobility companies we work with, we helped increase their customer satisfaction rates by 70%. For Jabra, we helped reduce their warranty claim times that they were spending on by 40%. Another company helped reduce their average resolution times by 85%.
Right.
And so it's just making use of such a platform rather than trying to build this in-house yourself. You get kind of the 6 years of product development that we're doing. You get that right out of the box. And so you don't need to spend your 1 or 2 years iterating that you should be spending on scaling your company instead.
Yeah, fantastic. So take me through this. Like say for example, I'm a scooter company or I'm a hardware company, and I come to you and I say, hey, look, we've got this product. It's actually going gangbusters, as it turns out. Everybody loves e-bikes. Who would have thought? We are now having this challenge of like we need to be able to help service this. And what's the process that they would have to go through to be able to get that support if they were to work with you?
Yep. It's super easy, right? You kind of sign up with Mavenoid, and in a couple of weeks, we'll have you live based on your existing support content and our experience. What you do then is you integrate this into your app with the available documentation that we have available. You plug it into your CRM with the connectors that are right there. You just configure this. We train up your agents, and you go live. So super easy, straightforward, simple. Sign up now, and we'll have you live before the summer peak. Right.
Fantastic. And so what are the sort of services that you offer? Like what is the sort of, I guess, the standards for customer expectations these days? Like, as you were saying, I don't think anybody is willing to stand on the side of the road and have a 2-day resolution time, for example, with a shared scooter. But what are the sort of, the technologies that you would deploy that would allow those, allow you to be able to satisfy the customers that you're working with?
Yep. So we would typically set up the Mavenoid platform, and kind of what we do and what we take a look at is what are the top issues that your customers are experiencing. And so based on that, we'll bring together your content to put together great troubleshooting steps, great step-by-step guides, bring videos together, and so that you have a single place where all of that content comes together, and it's pretty straightforward and simple in a way, right? But that is exactly what your users need, right? You don't need rocket science or quantum physics, but you need great support right then and there where your users need it. So that's what we bring together. And then as well as having the ability to escalate live chat and video support so that you have that entire support channel in a single spot right there at your fingertips, integrated into the app like a help center.
Excellent. And in terms of actually integrated into the app, it's like, I take it's very relatively straightforward process for someone who's got we've got a scooter app or we've got a bike app or something like this. You can work with what already exists and just be able to plug that in?
Yep, exactly. So it's, if you have a good team of developers, it's a 1-hour job to integrate it into your app, set it up, and launch it from there.
Awesome. In terms of like pricing, I mean, how does that work? So, and how does that compare to, for example, building something like this if you were to try and do it in-house?
Yep, I think that's a great question. So we're a software as a service. So that means that we provide a monthly billing setup, right? So you know what you're paying on a monthly basis. Depending on where you are in the stage of your company, this can range from maybe a couple hundred to a couple €1,000 a month. And so with that, you go live. So this is right. This will cost you less than a full-time employee.
Yeah.
And so compare that with putting an entire product team on building out this capability yourself and trying to ramp that up over the next couple of months or years even, and getting this live. Of course, the risk with anything when you're starting to build a new product is, we've gone through this startup cycle and kind of we've gotten past that point of finding an excellent product market fit. But that is not guaranteed as soon as you start building kind of like a new product or capability yourself, right? So it's kind of nice that we've gotten past that, and so let's just make use of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a kind of an interesting point in there, which is, as you say, it's cheaper than even hiring one employee, and for that you get what is, effectively all the depth and expertise and specialization of that, along with the ability to be able to engage with things like customer support on video or anything else. What, where do you think this is, like, the future of consumer expectations is going? Like, I think about it and go, I want to, well, your specific example, right? You bought a house, I just bought a house. It's like, I don't know how to use the friggin' oven. I know how to use one feature on that oven, which is I turn it on and I can turn it on fan bake, and that's about it, but it's because it's got weird things and they've lost the manual. So where do you think because I look at it and go, there's a whole opportunity for companies to be able to provide better support in that regard. Like, where do you think it's going?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as kind of consumers of products around us now, we've got so many of them in our lives that we don't have the time and energy to spend hours figuring out any single product, right? It kind of just needs to work. And in a way, we've become connoisseurs of these products, like a good wine connoisseur, right, who appreciates a good wine but doesn't appreciate a bad wine. We are now connoisseurs of customer experience. We expect everything to be like an iPhone or IKEA, and so there's just a massive, let's say, expectation from companies who build in this space to provide just such a great customer experience. And that is because we have so many of these products around us. So this is why you shouldn't, let's say, treat this as an afterthought, but be very active and mindful in thinking about your customer service and your customer support. Because, right, the other point is the customer experience feeds into your brand loyalty, right? And so you cannot risk letting that go to waste and actually losing your customers over a poor brand experience.
Totally. I mean, to give the iPhone example, I was in Amsterdam, my phone had cracked. It's a bit of a pain to get it repaired in New Zealand. I walked into the Apple Store. I literally had a new screen on my phone in an hour. It was free. I was like, this is genius. Again, man, Apple nails that experience. And I think a lot of brands want to really have, I think in some ways they've really set the bar incredibly high of what consumer expectations are. The one thing I did want to ask about is, like, how does it work, for example, when you've got a lot of startups, right? They might look at hiring you, they want to have some level of customer support, but they also want to go, like, it's a new product, they're getting it out into the market, they're wanting to know as quickly as possible, what are the issues with the product? Where does the design bad? How do we kind of get all that information? How do you work with them to be able to bring all of that information back to you? Because I think that's the one thing. Like, a lot of people say, I don't want to, like, while it's new, while I'm trying to work all this stuff out, I don't want to give it to anybody else. I want to work all that stuff out by ourselves. Like, do you work with companies that are in that stage?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is a great point as well, right? Especially if you're in a startup phase, you want to get something to market as quickly as possible to help gather that product feedback. But this is actually a bit of a challenge in the hardware space, right? You don't have, let's say, software usage, or you don't have great insight into how your product is being used and what issues customers are experiencing. So what we see Mavenoid being used for a lot as well is actually by gathering input from that channel of understanding, hey, these are the issues that users are experiencing. Let's capture that in our analytics. Let's see what questions users are asking, what they're struggling with. One way to kind of feed that back to the product team to help kind of develop features and help improve the product, as well as then kind of the things that we cannot kind of fully fix on the product side, providing the appropriate support to our users and kind of evolving our support offering over time.
Yeah. That's, I think one of the really interesting parts of this world has been that micromobility, I think in the early days, everybody didn't, there wasn't enough of a business there for anybody to be able to kind of go and do this. And I think a lot of companies really got caught, with their pants down around this. And yeah, I mean, it certainly from some of the early shared services and then certainly into the hardware and some of the companies that have, we've seen painful growth experiences for a lot of companies in the micromobility space. We've just had absolute hammered with demand and not being able to scale up. And so I think it's been one of those really interesting developments that companies like yourself, one, have emerged. And that, again, like I said, when I first heard about you, I thought, this is absolutely, of course a company like this would exist. Thank goodness you're here. And I just want to say thank you again. So for folks, look, who are want to learn more about you, how would they track you down and get in touch?
Yeah, for sure. So find me on LinkedIn. We have a booth over there as well, so stop by, come and say hi, and we'd love to chat further.
Fantastic. All right. Hey, well, thank you so much.
Thanks, Oliver.
Everybody, Mischa Schirris.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.